So I wanted to talk about trust today, not between you and I, Chris, but just with AI,
Hmm.
because that's come up a lot in our conversations of late with prospects and customers. Is um, if you're going to use applied AI, you need to be able to trust that it's going to
Mm.
give you the right result. And how can people be sure that what it's telling you is accurate? So
Yeah.
I think a topic that a lot of people will be probably aware of in lack of trust in AI and the technology it has. So what I wanted to do is take people through what we're doing to show our workings, number
Mm.
one, and I want you to talk to people about context, if that's okay.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned one of the key ways of understanding trust is about being able for the explainability of the model. Can you explain how the output, how it got to where how it got to the output, what steps it took, what information it considered in order to get to that output? And Of course, one of the things we do is we start with conversations and conversational intelligence. So it's a real sort of asset. You can go and watch that recording and view that. But of course, people want to save time and not have to do all of that. So when we provide these things we call insights and the summaries and the topic clustering, all these other kinds of things, you can get all the way back to the original conversation. And we don't want people to have to do that because what's the point of saving all this time if you're just going to watch all the conversations anyway? But what it does allow is that every single time it generates anything, it attaches it back to, well, a number of different records, CRM records and transcript segments and things like that. So you're able to understand, right, okay, well, it wrote this because, this is what my CRM said
Mm.
about this account, this contact, this opportunity. And so that's where it's getting its information from.
So there's a trail of breadcrumbs,
There's a trail of
basically.
breadcrumbs. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is actually what general AI ChatGPT omits because it doesn't give you any reference sources. Like you say, it doesn't know what those reference sources are um, a lot of the
No, it
time.
doesn't really. When you're a human and you're learning things, I don't know, like the Battle of Hastings, or something like that, random example. What year was the Battle of Hastings?
1066.
So where did you learn that?
School,
Yeah,
books.
so
I
you
mean, yeah,
extrapolated
yeah.
school, so you guessed school, and actually, if that's what you ask the models like ChatGPT, that's kind of what they'll do. They don't know
Mm,
where they don't record where they remember it, but they can extrapolate where they probably got it. They might say Wikipedia, or they might say something or like that, but that is them extrapolating where they think they got it from, not actually going back to it. Now, that's not necessarily a big problem for the way that you can use an LLM professionally, but it is something to bear in mind that the large language models sort of effectively can't not answer the question. They can be
mm,
told if you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer. But in general, they will extrapolate. They'll try and answer the question. They'll try and say something that they think fits, just like you did. You said school. Now, it's probably right,
mm,
but we've got no way of proving that at the
mm.
moment. We could probably go back and find out, but we haven't
Yeah.
really got time for that in this little chat.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's look at some of that basic context
Yeah,
setting.
let's
So I
look at
think
an
you've got
example.
an example, right?
I've got an example. So one thing that people may not know about the way that these models work is you take a huge amount of text, absolutely vast amount of text, online, documents, books, and so on, and you train a model with it, and that means your training cuts off on a particular date. So, newspaper articles and things like that, you feed it all in. Once you've trained the model, you cannot then give it more information. Training is like a one-off thing. That's why OpenAI, for example, and Google release a model, and later they'll release another model, maybe a year later, which has new training information. So, for example, if you ask the model, this is actually one of the latest models from OpenAI called GPT-4o, and I ask you what is the current year, and I think the current year is 2023. Now, the current year isn't 2023, but that's it. It stopped receiving new information as of that date. So we could call this a kind of a hallucination. To some extent, it doesn't know anything beyond 2023. So is it a hallucination or not? But that's not useful to us this
Mm,
year because the current year is in fact 2024. So to give you a really simple example of what context is in the form of using a generative AI, I'm going to give it what we call context, which goes up here in this box. So it uses this whilst it is thinking about the question I'm asking. So the current year is 2024. So I've told it the current year is 2024, and now it says the current year is 2024, which means I can also ask, what is next year? Now, it can't add, but it can extrapolate the text. It can't really add numbers together. That's not really what it's doing. So it's now generated for next year's 2025, which is correct. So the point of showing this is the hallucinations from large language models, which are highly, highly generic, come about because they haven't been given sufficient context about the question they're being asked. So when you look at different companies that are building things on top of these kinds of technologies, they're not all the same. Because some companies, like ours, spent months and months, developing context to give the LLM to get good results. And other companies have not. Other companies will just say, summarize this. And yeah, that's practically useless because it's got no context. Doesn't know who's on the call, doesn't know the jobs, doesn't know the job titles, doesn't know the account, doesn't know how long they've been a customer, whether they're a new customer, it doesn't know what products they're using, it doesn't know anything. So it will try and summarize the conversation in a highly generic way. And when it does that, people look at that and say, it's not a very good summary. Well, no, because it didn't know anything about anything. So really high performing systems, like the one we have, give it a lot of context. One of the things we say is the current year. And then we give it swathes of other context. And we pull that, for example, from your CRM, which is a wealth of information about, the conversations that are happening, the job titles of people, what they might be interested in. We take context from other conversations. That could be relevant to this one, like previous conversations you had with that customer. And all of these things we do drive the quality of the output. And then what we do is attach it right back, those particular records that we generate, right back to the CRM records and the transcript. So that if you read something that doesn't look right, like the current year is 2023, you can jump back very easily in our platform to say, well, where did you get that from? And then you can, usually what you would do with our system is say, oh, that's interesting that they said that. That was not what I was expecting. The LLM wasn't wrong. It was just pulling out something that maybe I hadn't expected it, or wording it in a way I hadn't expected it.
Okay, so context is one of those things that creates trust in the model because actually it's more relevant to the subject matter, the topic that you're discussing. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
And then being able to follow the trail of breadcrumbs back to the evidence that the AI has used to come up with its answer is another big thing. And do you mind just getting a view of that ready just to show right now in terms of our topic models and how we then evidence that with, like you say, the information from the CRM, the information from the customer and what the customer's talked about, so the actual individual insights. So you can go and look at the quality of the answer the AI has given, whereas you just can't do that with general GPT. And I think this is a problem in the market where companies have circumvented creating a really good prompt framework within their LLM, and they're just using OpenAI search to feed back information. I think this is particularly an issue where there are industries that rely on up-to-date information around compliance and law, for example, where actually you haven't trained the model with the latest stuff, and therefore it won't be there.
Yes, that's right. Yes, you can. To say that you can't train the model at all is not quite right. You can fine tune the model, and you can give it more information through context. So if things have changed, like the year, you can provide it that extra information. But the question is whether or not people do. And if you're just using a basic chat GPT interface and pasting stuff into it, like a transcript and saying, summarize this, then you're not using a rigorous framework that's going to get good results every time, repeatable results every time. Here's one view here of one of our topic models. We'll talk in a moment about how we create these. But if I sort of were to grab a particular insight here, I can see the statement, who said it, the conversation it came from, and all those other things. So you can dive right back into the conversation, look at the other insights, the transcript, you can look at the summary of the conversation to get this information out about where this data came from in the first place. Right to the timestamp, in fact, in the conversation where we got that information.
Okay.
So with us, we can see, yeah, as you say, the CRM records, and sort of the overview for this particular topic group. So yeah, if you want to understand, given this particular topic, whoops, there we go, about this view of areas of demographics and contracts in North America, which is what we have derived from this set of insights. You can then look at the individual insights, and you can look at the CRM records that those represented those people who were talking on those calls.
Mm, super.
Hmm.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for showing us that.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
trust. I think it's a big topic that's certainly bubbling up with our customers around AI.
Hmm.
I'm sure it is with other people.
Yeah, I know. Trail of breadcrumbs aspect. If somebody can't show you how their system came up with a particular answer,
Mm,
or diagnose if you think that something is wrong, explain why it isn't, then yeah, that's they don't have a very good grip on the situation.
cool. All right.